Hello, my name is Jordan Anderson. There are many important locations when it comes to learning and appreciating the history behind the formation of our country, from the 13 original colonies into the United States of America. Many of these sites are still held in reverence today and can be used as learning tools and encourage people to interact with the areas that were of great importance at the birth of our nation. The first location that I would like to talk about is the site of the Boston Massacre. Almost every school-attending person in America has probably heard of the Boston Massacre. On the evening of March 5th, in 1770, conflict between British soldiers and a group of colonists led to the soldiers firing their guns into the large, angry crowd. This led to the death of 3 men initially, with 8 being injured, 2 of which died of their wounds later on. This event would prove to be one of the last straws when it came to the colonists putting up with British rule. Though both sides were at fault, and despite conflicting tales, it is obvious that the colonists were probably almost as violent towards the British as the British were towards them. The incident was then used as a rallying cry to bring anti-British sentiment to new heights. In Eric Hinderaker's book, Boston's Massacre, he explains the importance of this event. Boston was the crucible of the American Revolution. It was not only the place that mattered in the era of independence, but it was the place where all the elements of the familiar story came together. 13, or perhaps more, of Britain's North American colonies would surely have attained their independence without the crises in Boston. In all likelihood, they would have had to fight a war to win it, and it is possible that they would have called that war a revolution. But even if all these things came to be, without Boston, every aspect of American Revolution, the timeline, the events, the unfolding narrative of conflict and war, would be so different as to be unrecognizable to us. Without Boston, there would have been no destruction of the East India Company, no coercive acts, no Lexington and Concord, no Continental Army forming on the Cambridge Commons. There would have been no First Continental Congress, no John or Abigail or Samuel Adams, no Paul Revere, Joseph Warren, or Mercy Otis Warren. So you can see that Mr. Hinderaker greatly understands the importance of the site of the Boston Massacre. The next location, another of great importance during the Revolutionary era, is the Independence National Historical Park. This small section of Philadelphia incorporates many sites that played the huge roles during the Revolution. The National Park contains Carpenter's Hall, Independence Hall, the Liberty Bell, and the reconstructed Graff House, which is now the Independence House, among other interesting locations. Independence House is where a young Thomas Jefferson constructed the first draft of the Declaration of Independence. Though it's been reconstructed since, it is themed to show timepiece furnishings and allows the visitor to gain knowledge about Jefferson's time there. The Liberty Bell has been long revered as an American symbol of freedom, and is engraved with "Proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof," referencing Leviticus, as Paul Willis notes. Also on the bell, the 2 men that fixed the crack, John Stowe and John Pass, are immortalized. Carpenter's Hall was the location where the First Continental Congress met, but it is overshadowed by the crown jewel of the park, Independence Hall. Here, the Second Continental Congress and the Constitutional Convention met. It was here that the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution were debated over for countless hours. Many of the structures and ideals that make America unique were formed and agreed upon within this building. Though I have never been myself, this is a location of great interest to me. I cannot help but think that when you are in this park, with the buildings also close to each other and armed with the knowledge of the importance of the events that occurred there over 200 years ago, that the bustle of the metropolis around you could fade away and you could be transported back to the Revolutionary era. In fact, in her book, Independence Hall and American Memory, Charlene Mires says, "At Independence Hall, our historical memory is refreshed by the narratives of the Second Continental Congress and the Constitutional Convention. We feel transported to the past." There are many other locations throughout the states that were once the 13 colonies that have locations important to the Revolution. However, history shows that Boston, Philadelphia, and New York were the hotspots of events that led to our secession from England. Both the places that I mentioned in this video, as well as countless others, are unique and interesting windows that allow us to look back in time to the formation of this great nation, and by studying them, we can learn the important and valuable lessons from our founding fathers.